Don Quixote Part I Chapter 2, which treats of the first sally the ingenious Don Quixote made from home. These preliminaries settled, he did not care to put off the execution of his design any longer, urged on by the thought of all the world was losing by his delay, seeing what wrongs he intended to right, grievances to redress, injustices to repair, abuses to remove, and duties to discharge. He could not bear to check the impetuosity of his purpose, so without giving notice of his intention to anyone, and without anybody seeing him, one morning before the dawn, it being one of the hottest days of July, he donned his suit of armor, mounted Rocinante with his patched-up helmet on, raised his buckler, took his lance, and by the back door of the yard, sallied forth upon the plain in the highest contentment and satisfaction, at seeing with how much ease he had made a beginning, with his grand purpose. But scarcely did he find, with himself upon the open plain, when a terrible thought struck him, one all but enough to make him abandon the enterprise at the very outset. It occurred to him that he had not been dubbed a knight, and that according to the law of chivalry he neither could nor ought to bear arms against any knight, and that even if he had been, he ought, as a novice knight, to wear white armor, without a device upon his shield, until by his prowess he had earned one. These reflections made him waver in his purpose, but his craze being stronger than any reasoning, he resolved to have himself dubbed a knight by the first one he came across, following the example of others in the same case, as he had read in the books that brought him to this pass. As for white armor, he proposed, on the first opportunity, to scour his until it was whiter than an ermine, and so comforting himself, he pursued his way, taking that which his horse chose, for in this he believed lay the essence of adventures, and so he went on, talking to himself and saying, "Who doubts that, in the time to come, when the true history of my famous deeds is written, the sage who writes it will, when he has to record my first sally in the early morning, duly relate in this fashion. Scarce had the rubicund Apollo spread o'er the face of the wide and spacious earth the golden threads of his bright hair, when the renowned knight Don Quixote of La Mancha, quitting the lazy down, mounted his celebrated steed Rocinante and began to traverse the ancient and famous Campo de Montiel. And it was true that he was traversing it. He went on, saying in the same style, "Happy the age, happy the time, that shall behold the dread exploits of my pen. Happy, thrice happy, the worthy man to whom shall fall the task of chronicling the wondrous story of my celebrated achievements." Thus, wholly absorbed in these fancies, he rode on all day long without noticing anything else, no adventure offering itself that might give him occasion to test his courage. Yet he was so eager for encounters that he was ready to take fire at the least thing, and deliberately caused his horse to deviate from the road, whenever he observed that it might lead to any sort of excitement. Towards dusk, he and his horse found themselves tired and hungry, and looking about him to see if he could discover any castle or habitation, where he might refresh himself and repair his armor, he saw an inn near the road, which it is described as being one of the poor inns that are found in the waste places of La Mancha. But to him it appeared as a castle, with its 4 turrets and battlements of shining silver, and pennants fluttering in the breeze from their parapets. Without halting, however, he rode on Rocinante to the gate of the inn, which he took to be the castle gate, and called out to the innkeeper, whom he imagined to be the castellan, saying, "Ho, Sir a knight-errant seeks shelter within your castle this night." The innkeeper saw before him a man in armor and with a lance and shield, and, not being altogether dull, was quick to perceive he must be of unsound mind. Nevertheless, he resolved to humor him, and said, "Sir Knight, your worship is welcome to my castle." Don Quixote dismounted with much difficulty and pain, for he had not eaten anything all day and was mortally fatigued. The innkeeper led him to a seat by the door, and the women who waited at the inn, 2 girls of the sort commonly found in such places, seeing the strange figure of Don Quixote, could not restrain their laughter, but he, thinking they were noble ladies of the castle, made them a profound bow and said, "Never did a castle hold 2 damsels more worthy of bright ornaments than your ladyships. Might I beg of you the favor of removing my armor?" They helped him remove it piece by piece, though they laughed in secret. When they uncovered his head, his helmet fell apart, for it was only held by some strips of pasteboard. They asked him if he wished to eat, and he said he would partake of whatever food might be prepared for knights. So they prepared a dinner of poor quality bad codfish, black bread, and coarse wine, yet he believed it was rich fare while he ate. It occurred to him again that he must be dubbed a knight without delay, and he begged the innkeeper to perform the ceremony. The innkeeper, who liked the joke, agreed to do so. The next morning Don Quixote spent the night in the courtyard, guarding his armor as he believed was customary for knights about to be knighted. He placed his armor on a trough and began walking up and down before it. A mule driver came to water his animals at the trough, and seeing armor in the way, tossed it aside. Don Quixote, thinking he was being insulted, attacked him with his lance, knocking him down. Another man came and attempted the same thing. Don Quixote attacked him also. The whole inn was soon in an uproar. The innkeeper, fearing worse trouble, hurried out and said that he would knight Don Quixote immediately if only he would stop attacking people. Don Quixote agreed, so the innkeeper performed the ceremony in mockery, the girls assisting him. Don Quixote stood with great solemnity, believing everything to be real, and thus, the first night of his adventures, Don Quixote was dubbed a knight.